If you're an average player, you want to be left alone, right? Because you want to be able to slide by. If you're a good player, you want to be coached. If you're a great player, you want the coach to tell you the truth every day. Did I hustle on that play? Did I make the right read? Did I play the guy with the right leverage? You want to know every play. Because you know why? They want to be perfect. Everybody here makes a choice to do one of those three things.
Welcome to the GOAT Consulting Podcast, a podcast dedicated to people striving to be a GOAT, the greatest of all time, serving it up in a way that you can get it in all stages of life.
Hey, I'm Colby Jubenville, and welcome to another episode of the GOAT Consulting Podcast right here in VCE Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Tyler isn't with us today. He's on the road down in Dalton, Georgia, building the GOAT family of brands and the GOAT empire. But at the table, as always, is my good friend, John Byers, the LinkedIn whisperer, the calming force to our show.
Thank you. And our friends Dev Digital, who are always rock stars. They're in the GOAT family bosom.
Yes, and do all things, make Nashville what it is today, the energy that they bring. We'll talk a little bit further about that as we continue to progress through the show. But we got a great show for you today.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
It's a second piece to our good friends. You know, as we said, Nashville's got Dan and Shay.
Yes.
And if they keep listening to this, they're going to have Dan and Chris, right?
Yes, they will.
So we look forward to kicking that off and on with the show.
Probably even more so, and we'll get to this, as a superpower, probably connects with those things maybe more than any of us do. But I love what you said, at the end of your pain is your dream. Yeah. There's something so good in that. And obviously, Chris, a minute ago when you said there's a battle going on between the pain and the dream, maybe that's a little bit of the same thing, but really beautiful.
Yeah. Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Can you do this on your own, or do you need a coach?
I have no idea.
I think Chris will one day be able to do it without me.
Yeah.
However, I don't think he would choose to.
Yeah.
Chris is again, we're talking about a superpower. One of his superpowers is human connection. You know, one of the things that we don't talk about a lot is Chris connects with human connection through hugs. Well, on that race day, he wore a sleeveless outfit, and so did I.
Yep.
A kit, and he didn't shave the day of the race, so he had stubble on his chin. He hugged me over 100 times during that race, at least 100 times, because that's the way that he feels comfort. When he's in major pain, I have to hug him and make him feel comfortable.
Love it.
And recenter him. He hugged me and put his chin here so many times that he removed all the skin on my shoulder. The biggest bruise or issue I had that whole from the race, the only shaving I had was this huge area on my shoulder. So now before every race, I make sure this monkey shaves, right, boy?
Yep.
Because you're going to get me again, aren't you?
Yeah.
You better stop it. You're not getting me again.
Yeah.
So what a great story to share there. What a great war wound, I might add. So one of the ways that we honor our guests, Chris and Dan, is that we ask them to define a GOAT, and the greatest of all time. How might you, in a very short soundbite, define a GOAT? And then we ask you to share who your GOAT is. One of the idols that you might have in life, relationship, sports. Would you guys share those two things for us, please?
Chris, who do you think's the greatest of all time?
My greatest of all time is I keep going with it's hard. I keep going when the pain goes away. The reason that I'm doing this Ironman is because I had to keep going. Whatever it takes to have a big dream. A big dream includes a big luxury house. A big dream goes to the car. A big dream would get me that smoking hot blood.
Unconditional
Who
love.
would love me the one who adores me, the one who cares for me for the rest of her days. She would call me any nicknames she wants. Baby, sweetheart, honey, beautiful,
Chris, you're speaking my language. You are speaking my language, buddy.
adorable, unfavorable, single.
All right.
We're gonna have to add a new love language to that.
Well, I think what I gather from that is that Chris is living the goatness. Like when we talk about who's the goat, like he just painted that in a beautiful picture.
A big dream is, and lays it out for us.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan, do you have a goat? Do you have an idea what you think a goat is?
Yeah, I mean, when you asked that question, it made me think about a lot. And I think in life, the idea of the greatest of all time changes, right? And I'm a season in my life. I'm 46 years old. I'm a father of an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old. And I reflect a lot now on my life. You know, what I've done with Chris is something that, as a young man, you prayed that God would use you to change the world. And I got to stand next to one of the greatest of all time and be part of that. You know, I got to stand next to a Martin Luther King and change the world. I got to stand next to a Christopher Columbus. I got to stand next to an Abraham Lincoln. I got to stand next to, you know, someone that we will all, Mother Teresa, that will be remembered forever for what they've accomplished.
Yep.
And so when you ask that question, you know, what I say is at 46 years old, the greatest of all time, when I imagine that person, it's the common man who does things that no one will ever know that they did, but it changed someone. So I think of like that, when you look at the YouTube videos of a father and a daughter walks up and gives him a little present, you're like, what's the present? He's opening up these paperwork, and the young girl is asking her to adopt him. The stepfather where the daughter at 15 years old presents him with adoption paperwork and says, I want you to be my dad.
Yeah.
That's the greatest of all time. You know, it's just a common man that nobody would know is out there saving other children from a life of feeling unworthy or being that. Those are the greatest of all time to me. The ones that no one ever recognizes or ever gives an award to, but change the fabric of our community and change the fabric of our world by giving the best of themselves to people that really need it, but they don't have to. Those are the greatest of all time.
Well said.
Well said. The key to greatness is serving many. I think the question is, and Dan certainly has answered the call, is how do you want to serve? How do you want to serve?
Yeah. So we before we get into this other topic, I want to ask one very quick question, and Chris would love some feedback from you on this. You had a bike accident during Ironman Florida. I did also at mile 80. I was coming in, and one of the handlers was handing me a water. He didn't let go of the water, and it turned my bike just ever so slightly enough, and I crashed pretty hard, bent the frame on the front of my bike, but I was able to finish the last 20 miles pretty beat up and then finish the race. So I was connecting with you as you had your crash, and again was kind of watching it. Can you talk a little about that and how you came through?
So, okay, when I crashed my bike, I'm like, Dad, I crashed my bike! Dad, I crashed my bike! And then he comes the marathon for the last 2 miles in. Dan said, we can walk it in, or we can run in. If you give me your personal best for the last 2 miles, I would hug my race day team. And yeah, I ran for the last 2 miles, personal best, got hugs, got love, and my superpower is love.
So to kind of add some color to what you just said there, at the end of the race, We had 2 miles to go and 54 minutes left.
Yep.
We could easily walk it in. I told Chris we were not going to walk it in, not because I didn't want him to just be a finisher.
Yep.
I wanted him to set the bar high for the next person with Down syndrome that came behind him. I wanted the next person to be a competitor, not a finisher. And so I told him if he gave me his personal best for his last 2 miles, that I would slow us down and allow him to hug all of his friends along the way.
Yep.
So the last 2 miles, he actually gave me a better pace than he gave me at mile 10 and 12. And that's because he knew that he was close to the finish line and he could receive the hugs that recharge him.
He was driven by love.
Driven by love.
Our team members from our triathlon team, he was able to hug my real estate team members. He was able to hug his childhood friends, and then he was able to finish. And we all saw that amazing finish.
Yeah. Chris, one of the things you said a moment ago was one of your superpowers is love. And so I want to talk about that. One of the ways we honor our guests is we have a segment, and this comes from the movie Jerry Maguire. By the way, at the beginning of the movie where he talks about, he writes a mission statement, not a memo. And I don't know if you guys know, Dan, I don't know if you've seen the movie. I'm sure you have, but the title of the mission statement is The Things We Think and Do Not Say. And we like to talk about that with our guests. And a couple things that I wrote down that I wanted to Chris ask you about, and Dan also. But my wife, Vanessa, has taught me this years back. Her degree is in therapeutic recreation. And she's taught me to always lead with the person first. And so as we talk about your superpowers, and as I've always over the last months have talked about you, Chris, I've always shared it in such a way that's honorable about who you are. So Chris Nikic is the first person to complete an Ironman that has Down syndrome. Is that person first meaningful to you? And Dan, maybe you can share a little bit about this and maybe help us think through that.
Well, I'll say that for the Nikic family, they're not as concerned with the political correctness of Down syndrome. They're more concerned that their son is included. We all have our own imperfections and superpowers. And Chris is, what they say with Down syndrome is written all over his face. You can look at it and you can see that he has Down syndrome. And as a result, sometimes people are hesitant to engage with him because they're afraid maybe he's too fragile. Maybe I'll say the wrong thing. I won't accomplish that. I felt that way when I met him. And the Nikic family just wants Chris to be included for what he can do in society. So they're not too concerned with whether you say, Chris, the way in which you describe his Down syndrome. They're just more concerned that you include him and his Down syndrome. Because the reality of his life is he has Down syndrome. Okay, now what? The number one thing that his family wants the world to know is that not only does every person have a place in our society, Chris does too. And people like Chris too. They don't need us to protect them.
Right.
Chris doesn't need to be protected. He needs to be given an opportunity to fail. One of the most freeing things his father told me early on in our training was, Dan, are you willing to treat my son like everyone else? And I said, yes. He said, great. Are you willing to let my son fail like everyone else? Well, my ego initially was like, hell no. I love this kid. There's no way I'm going to let him fail. I'm going to throw him on my shoulders and I'm going to carry him across the finish line if I have to, over my dead body. But then as I took a moment and thought about that, that's not
what he was
Chris.
asking.
Serving Chris is allowing him to know failure and success, because he'll never know success if he doesn't know failure. And it's about giving him the ability to compete to the extent of his ability and not focusing on his disability. And so when you ask a question about, does the person come first with Down syndrome, it's irrelevant in this topic for Chris, because he's never going to go anywhere the rest of his life without his Down syndrome. So we should recognize that and just make accommodations for him to be productive and active in our society the way he is.
Gosh, I love that. Thank you for helping me see that differently than even what was in my head. And we talk about this idea of a superpower. Let's maybe unpack that a little bit more. But one of the characteristics that I've always admired and loved, Chris, and you, and others and friends that I have known that have Down syndrome is their ability to show grace, kindness, forgiveness on a whole nother level that I really struggle with. In fact, I wrote it this way, Chris, I believe you and others that have Down syndrome have a different gear for grace. And it's paired with this really unique ability to be 100% exactly who you are. Like there's no faking it with you. And I really love and admire that. Can you, and you talked about it earlier, love being one of your superpowers. Can you maybe talk just a tad more about that?
Yeah. Love relates to deep, long hugs.
You like to hug people, don't you?
Yeah.
Do you hug people why do you hug people every time you see them because you like meeting them?
Yeah.
And do you hug people when you're sad, do you hug people?
Yeah.
When they're sad, do you hug them?
Yeah.
When you're a little frustrated, do you give hugs too?
Yeah.
You always give hugs, right?
A different gear for grace.
Yeah.
And you'll give a hug to someone even if you don't know them, but if you think they're sad, won't you?
Because I'm inspired by kids.
Because you want to inspire kids to be what?
Because throughout the race, moms send me messages saying that, oh, the child can do anything, or the child can, like, if it's up or down, we don't tolerate those.
That's right. So Chris, let me just say this. When all the moms email you and they email your mom and dad and they email Uncle Dan, what are they saying that you're giving all their kids? Do you remember what they say they're always giving you? You're giving them?
I think they're saying that I'm the hero, and
That's right. You're giving them hope, right?
I'm the person that the kids look up to.
That's right.
That's
Because
really
what
cool.
Chris is doing, guys, is he's giving them hope. And again, giving you a little color here. When Chris was in utero, the doctors came up to his parents and said, "Hey, listen, you have a child with Down syndrome. Let me tell you what your options are." And you know what those options are. We don't need to talk about that. And then the reality is that once they decided to keep Chris and have Chris and raise him, the rest of their lives, they've been told that he's not going to amount to much. Hey, listen, your child's got Down syndrome. He probably won't amount to much. And they feel and like they've been burdened now. Not like they've got this little gift from God in their hand, but now we have a lifetime burden of a child. And that's what society has long said about people like Chris. And so when Chris completed this race, what he did is he unlocked the gates for everybody like him. I want you to just think about it. There's a mother and father walking into a doctor today.
Yep.
Yeah.
And them saying, "Hey, let me tell you about your options."
Yep.
And them saying, "Well, what about that one kid that completed an Ironman, that did what 1% of our whole population can do?" There are people that have had children. Like, let me give you an example. When Chris and I are going just to do like a bike check-in, this huge man, tattoos all over him, walks up and says, "Hey, can I get a picture with you guys?" And I said, "Absolutely, get a photo with us," right?
It's awesome.
We're of course late now. I'm stressing out. You know how it is, trying to do bike checking and stuff. And I can feel him shaking as I'm holding this guy, 6 foot tall, tattoos.
Wow.
I can feel him shaking. And my initial response is like, "What's going on here?" And then it clicks back. I know exactly why. He's got tears in his eyes. He's got a child with Down syndrome. He knows a child with Down syndrome. And him seeing Chris put his bike, just simply walking his bike to the rack, is saying that his child is going to amount to something. His child has a chance. That's hope. The greatest gift you can give a people is hope. That's what Nelson Mandela did. There is people that have emailed us or messaged us on Instagram, and there's nothing makes us happier than receiving them. And we're in Google Translate. We've got Egyptian people saying, "You're providing me with hope." We've got folks from Portugal saying you're providing me with hope. We got people from Spain. And I'm just Google translating all these different languages, and the message is always the same. Thank you for helping Chris. I now believe that my child is going to amount to something.
And you change the conversation for those that, like you said, that may get that, here's what your options are conversation. Thank you for saying that.
The greatest thing that Chris has been, his father said this early on to me, and of course, he's a very wise man. Nikic is a very wise man, an amazing father. Patty Nikic is a very wise woman, an amazing mother, and has shared so much and allowed me into their family for the rest of their lives. And I'm so honored to be that person. I'm kind of the next in line. Should anything happen to them, I'll be with Chris for the rest of his life. I'm about 15 years younger than them, so they've got a runway of support once they pass on. They told me that the greatest gift Chris brings to them is joy. And I heard that, but I didn't understand that. Now I fully understand that. What would the world be like if we infused more people with Down syndrome into our businesses? There'd be a lot more laughter. There'd be a lot more acceptance. There'd be a lot less judgment. There'd be a lot more hugs. That is not a recipe for a society going down. That's a recipe for a society going up.
Tethered together.
I love
Tethered
that.
together for the rest of our lives.
For the rest of their lives.
Chris, we got one more.
On that one too.
We got one more question for you, Chris, and we want to ask you, one of the ways that we honor our guests is we have them share something from their playlist. And I want to ask you, what is at the top of your playlist? What music are you listening to today as you're in the grind of training and getting ready for Ironman World Championships in Kona here in a few months? What's helping push Chris through on from a music standpoint?
My favorite song is Drake.
Okay. And what else songs do we like to listen to when you and I are training? You like to listen to In the Club?
Yeah.
And you like to listen to Hit It?
Yeah.
And you like to listen to high energy dance music and rap, right?
Yeah.
I don't like rap music as much as he does, so I listen to primarily. Oh, look at him go. Stop it, boy. Uh-oh. Is that the way you dance?
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, I got it.
Birthday, I took him to his first nightclub too.
Nice. Well, I'm a big fan of 90s hip hop, so I totally In the Club, 50 Cent, Dre. I'm all about that, Chris. We've got that in common. So, one of the things we want to we know, Chris, as we wind the plane to the ground, as Colby likes to put it, is we know that this your parents covered most of your costs for your first Ironman. We know that you're on a journey to do that for Kona, and so we're going to help support that. We're going to make a donation to your site and to support you. We're gigantic fans. You are a GOAT. You are the greatest of all time. Nobody's never done what you've done. Thank you for joining us. Thanks to both of you guys for being here.
Yeah.
It's an honor.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, I want you to know one thing. You said it best in the fact that you want to be loved, and you are loved. You're loved right here in Nashville. Mm-hmm. We may have Dan and Shay in Nashville, but now we've got Dan Grieb and Chris Nikic in Nashville too. So we've got Dan and Chris that are part of the Nashville
and the
Nashville family too, and part of the world. So we certainly appreciate you guys being on the show. What an honor. Dan, when I think about coaches, great coaches in my life, and now I'm considering you one of my coaches. They did three things for me. Number one, they made me have conversations I didn't want to have. Number two, they made me do things I didn't think I could do. And number three, ultimately become something I didn't think I could become. And I so appreciate what you have done for Chris, what you have done for John, what you have done for me, what you have done for Tyler down in Dalton, and certainly all of our audience. So for Chris and for Dan and for John, and I'm Colby, and our good friends at Dev Digital and Tyler on the road.
Yep.
This is right here in VC Studios, the GOAT Consulting Podcast. We will see you next time.
Boom.